You're listening to the Night Demon Network. Go to nightdemon.net/subscriber to unlock more exclusive content.
Hello and welcome to the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast. I'm your host Nesbit, and today we're going to keep on with our dive into the Heavy Metal Mixtape compilation. It's compiled and released by Night Demon and released on a limited edition cassette in October of 2015. This is Heavy Metal Mixtape Part 2. So last week we talked about the first few tracks on this mixtape, the intro into Night Demon Screams in the Night, and the second track, Metal Warrior by Riot. Today we're going to continue on with the tracks. We talked about the inspiration and the idea of putting out this compilation, but getting all these bands on board wasn't as easy as you might think.
So then began the quest to find what we wanted as far as what bands to be on this thing. So I mean, we'll go through the tracks here, but just to preface it, we did approach a lot of bands, and there were some bands that actually said no to being on this, which was, I mean, hindsight, it's very disappointing. At the time, it didn't really matter to me, but I do feel that there are a couple bands that really should have been represented on this that didn't want to do it at the time, probably because they just didn't know us so well and didn't know where we were coming from. Or, you know, they just had their own thing going on, which is totally fine. I mean, we've said no way more times than we've said yes to projects like this, people reaching out to us. It seems to happen every week. So I totally understand that. But, I mean, I'm still very proud of the lineup on this and the songs. It's definitely become a heavy underground classic. And, I mean, the day we announced it, I mean, it sold amazingly well.
So a few bands turned Night Demon down, but overall you get 20 bands, 21 if you include Night Demon themselves, 20 bands that say yes to being on this compilation. So on to track number 3 of side A. But before we hit that track, you get a sound clip. So one thing that makes this compilation kind of cool and unique is that, like a regular mixtape that you would have made in the past, there's sound clips and little snippets of movies dropped in between certain tracks. And here we come out of the Riot track into this sound clip.
You can go to a punk gig and they're all got spiky hair and they're, you know, in their punk gear, or disco freaks with their silly little shoes on, you know, and people see us and they know straight away that you're heavy rockers, right?
So I guess Riddle of Steel would have been technically the first sample on the mixtape. So we'll call this sample number 2. And this was really cool. We had taken this from this video that we found about the new wave of British heavy metal. There used to be, I think there was like on a VHS, and it was called Iron Maiden and the New Wave of British Heavy Metal. And I mean, the title's pretty deceiving. I mean, it was a pretty short film, and it was mainly focused around Neil Kay and the Soundhouse and early Maiden, but it didn't really cover a lot of the other new wave of British heavy metal bands. It more talked about the scene, which was really cool, and you can find this on YouTube. But it's from 1980, like a British TV show basically filmed it, and it was about fans of the new wave of British heavy metal and the movement of of early 80s England. So it was just great to get this little clip from it, and this is just funny. This clip from this always made us laugh, and Brent came up with the idea to use it. It was awesome and very well suited.
I really love that clip. Maybe it's because I'm so obsessed with like early Maiden and that era, but it's really cool. Take a look on YouTube or follow the link on the subscriber section of nightdemon.net for this episode. You'll find the video Jarvis is talking about. It's totally worth watching. It's pretty cool. So out of that clip, which sets up the next track, the track is Lost Angels and the band is Blade Killer. Man, I love the way the guitars come in that clip. At the beginning, if you're listening in headphones, it sounds really cool. Anyway, Blade Killer, they're a metal band from Los Angeles, California, started in 2012. Here's Carlos Gutierrez of Blade Killer.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Carlos Gutierrez, vocalist from Blade Killer, heavy metal band from Los Angeles, California. Just wanted to talk about the band a little bit. We started back in 2012. It's a band I actually wanted to start for quite some time. Had a bunch of riffs recorded on my phone, and finally decided to get some friends together to get it started. And it is what it is now. We started in 2012. Our first EP, self-titled EP, came out in 2014, and our first album came out, High Risk, came out in 2018 on M3 Records. So my thoughts on heavy metal compilations are, I think they're a huge factor in the heavy metal game to introduce you to new bands. New bands are old bands you haven't heard of, new music. Like some compilations that I have that I found at some thrift stores and some record stores. Like one that I have here called Bonsai Axe from Bonsai Records, some old school one, has bands like Venom, Slayer, Raven, and actually introduced me to the band Sortilege. Their song Metamorphosis is on there, and if you don't know, that's actually where the name Blade Killer from, their track called Blade Killer, and I always just thought it was such a killer name for a band. Another compilation that I have right here is another killer one that I got from a thrift store. It's called Heavy Metal Machine. It introduced me to bands like Hurricane, Obsession, Anthem, and Wild Dogs. I mean, these are some other killer bands that I wouldn't have known about if I didn't have this compilation.
So again, compilations being the entry point to a lot of cool bands. I can see how Night Demon thought that the audio clip about new wave of British heavy metal, it was a great setup for this band. They totally have that early Maiden vibe. They kind of put, they take their own like new unique spin on it, but they kind of have that spirit. And I really love this track.
So the song that we contributed to the Heavy Metal Mixtape is entitled Lost Angels. It's a track that I wrote and was inspired basically from taking the train out here and working out here and now living out here. But it's, a lot of the homelessness and the greed and the corporate entities are just kind of in your face out here. You see these huge buildings just out here, all the people living on the streets out here, and just kind of all that just kind of inspired me to write write about it, and I think the title Lost Angels just kind of fit perfectly.
The Blade Killer track Lost Angels is another one of my favorites on here. Blade Killer was an amazing band, is an amazing band from LA. They're a little inactive these days, as is everybody, right? But yeah, this band featured Carlos from Fueled by Fire. He was the drummer of the thrash band Fueled by Fire, and he actually just wanted to do a heavy metal band, so he became the singer. And man, his voice is amazing. But Blade Killer was a band that put out an EP, I believe 6 months to a year before Night Demon put ours out. And I think they were just looking for a drummer at the time. They weren't really playing any gigs, but when we started playing in LA and getting mixed up in that scene, that's kind of how we met Carlos and we became close friends. And I mean, once they started doing gigs, we would bring them out to Ventura a lot and vice versa. They played Frost and Fire 1, but they also played Heavy Metal Meltdown, which was kind of like a baby Frost and Fire. That was our first attempt at really kind of putting on shows. This band for me just represented Los Angeles. Much like a band like Armored Saint did in the 80s and the early 90s, I think Blade Killer was really kind of like, they had deep roots in LA, and I mean, you can see it. It's hard to explain. It really is. You would have to be there, but more than anything, this song, Lost Angels, about LA, it really, really brought that home.
So Blade Killer has another tie-in with Night Demon, which we'll probably get into in a future episode. But Carlos Gutierrez and Jonathan Rubio from Blade Killer provided background vocals for Night Demon on their Curse of the Damned album. So these two bands go way back.
Man, how I know that the guys in Night Demon, I think it was one of their very first shows. I went to go check them out. And I don't remember how I heard about them, but I went to go check them out. They're playing a show here in downtown LA at a place called Down and Out, a bar called Down and Out on Spring Street. And yeah, I went in there and I think they just started, and these guys fucking blew me away, man. The 3-piece was just in your face, heavy metal, fucking in your face. And after their show, I went up and introduced myself to Jarvis, told him I played in another band called Fueled by Fire, and we just started chopping it up from there, and became friends and kept in touch, and the rest is history. Played done a bunch of shows with those guys. They actually brought us out to Ventura to play our second show at the Bombay Bar and Grill, and actually played a couple times there doing their festival. And I'm sure there's other places that we've played together that I can't remember off the top of my head, and I'm sure there's going to be plenty more times that we play with those guys. So yeah, hopefully we get to share the stage with those dudes some more.
So that is track 3, Lost Angels by Blade Killer, another killer track on this compilation. It's the first track from their full-length High Risk. So if you like this track, the entire album is just as good. It's a really great album, totally worth checking out. The next track on the Heavy Metal Mixtape is by Bat, and it's called Cruel Discipline. So Bat, how would you describe Bat? It's thrashy, raw, bare bones, heavy metal. And it's kind of cool to drop in here after the last 3 tracks. It kind of changes up the feel a little bit. Bat is a power trio from Richmond, Virginia. They have a full-length from 2019 called Wings of Chains, if you want to check them out. This track it starts out with the sounds of a woman either in agony or ecstasy or some combination of both.
Temptress beckons your call. Sexual thoughts, torturous plots, the way of the sadist divulge. Cruel discipline.
So listening to the cassette tape of this compilation, I always thought that was another one of those sound bites kind of dropped in between 2 songs, but it's not. It's actually part of this song. So that's the intro to the song, Cruel Discipline by Bat. And it has a matching cover art for the single for the song. It has like this dominatrix in leather, and she's carving a bat logo into a wall with a dagger. And it's actually done by Andrei Buzikov, who did the Night Demon cover art for Empire's Fall. So there is a Night Demon connection there with the cover art.
The track from Bat I thought was also pretty good here. This band had been brand new at the time. We also had them out to play the first Frost and Fire that October. But, I mean, what can you really say about it? I mean, it's pretty venomish, black rock and roll style. It's actually very venomy. There's really not much more to say about that.
So to me, this song really shines on the second half when it kind of slows down into a sludgier riff with this killer solo over it. And, before it kicks back into that thrashy, fast tempo.
She gains, bound by her bestial desire, chained to the ground with a fist full of mouth before burned on the funeral pyre. Cruel discipline.
I will say one cool thing about this band is that Felix Griffin, the original drummer for DRI, well, at least the drummer that was playing on all those key records, was in this band at the time and did play on this recording. And his drumming is very bombastic and very cool. And that's what I remember most about their performance at Frost and Fire.
That was Bat live at the Frost and Fire Festival. Cruel Discipline, the track on this compilation. After a few listens, it really grew on me, and I really like it now. Pretty solid track. Give it a few listens, and you can check them out they're on Bandcamp, and all their social media is Beware of the Bat. So next up, well, we had Riot, and now we have another metal legend, Raven.
On October 31st, 2015, Night Demon released Heavy Metal Mixtape. This collection of underground heavy metal was released on 666 hand-numbered limited edition cassettes. It sold out in nearly a week. Since then, many people have scoured the internet and paid insane prices to get a copy of this tape. Now in 2021, it is near impossible to find a copy new or used of Heavy Metal Mixtape. Until now. Night Demon has opened the vault and released a handful of original factory-sealed Heavy Metal Mixtapes. These are available for subscribers only. For those of you who are late to the game, head over to nightdemon.net/subscriber. Sign up and head over to the subscriber-only store to get your copy of Heavy Metal Mixtape while they still left.
He's his charge and he's ready to go. Swings his axe with one fatal blow. You look at horror and you start to pray. Nothing left to do but just try to get away.
So the band Raven, the track Fight. So where a lot of these bands on the compilation are inspired by the new wave of British heavy metal, this is one of the bands that actually was part of the new wave of British heavy metal. So again, like Riot, I'm sure most listeners here know or at least have heard of Raven. But in case you don't, they're British, started in the 70s by brothers John and Mark Gallagher. They're a three-piece, they have been since their first album in 81. They have a string of classic albums starting back in the 80s. So here's John Gallagher of Raven.
Hello there, this is John Gallagher, and my band is Raven. I am the singer and bass player, chief cook and bottle washer. And our band was put together in the Cretaceous era, and unlike the dinosaurs, we're still very much alive and kicking. We are usually introduced as part of the new wave of British heavy metal, as our first single came out in 1980 and our first album in 1981. And since then, we've left a trail of destruction, basically all over this wonderful planet of ours, and continue to play high-energy, crazy, heavy metal rock and roll.
So I'll come clean. I'm not a Raven mega fan by any means. Again, kind of like with Riot, I only knew the early stuff from Raven. I got into them by listening to their 1984 live album, Live at the Inferno. But again, after hearing this single from the Heavy Metal Mixtape, I checked out the album it's from, and it's called Extermination from 2015. And to be honest, I think these guys just got better over the years if this album is any indication. So it's kind of a recurring theme for me on this podcast, hearing a track on this mixtape and then going out and digging into the band's history and full albums. That's really one of the best things about heavy metal compilations.
I really like the idea of heavy metal compilations. There's been a number of bands I probably wouldn't have given the time of day to that came to my attention through a compilation. Compilations really, in general, are just a great idea. It just broadens your radar. You get to check stuff out that, like I said, you would never have heard. We've been on quite a few. We were on Lead Weight, which was a neat compilation. I know a lot of people got into us from that. There was the one called Metal Battle that Roadrunner put out in Europe that we were on. And specifically, I remember hearing Soundgarden for the first time. I know we're stretching a little bit out of metal here, but it's a pretty metallic track. Was on a weird compilation that I got given by some record company, and pretty much everything on it was junk. And then this one track just went, whoa! I'm like, who's this band? So the concept is sound. Spread the word, get it out there, and it contributes heavily to the growth and health of our metal community, I think. So good work and keep it up.
So like I said, this track, Fight, is from their 2015 album Extermination, which was the current album at the time when this compilation was released. It's an album I probably would have never gotten into if it wasn't for this compilation.
The track that's on the mixtape from us is a song called Fight, which is from our Extermination album, which came out in 2015. It's very representative, I think. Fast, heavy riff. Mark, one of Mark's songs, my brother. And he came up with a really crazy breakdown in the middle as well, which is very cool because the song's about a boxer basically getting knocked down and, getting himself back up again. So there's that whole knocked on the floor, unconscious, dragging himself back up into the fight, and then of course it speeds right back up into a fiery guitar solo.
really great track. Really, really cool solo. Something that's cool to note, in 1983, they toured and brought Metallica out as support on their first American tour, Metallica's first American tour. And then in 2014, they brought Night Demon out for their first American tour while touring this Extermination album. We're actually planning on doing an episode on that tour in the future, so I'm not going to get any further into that. Here's Jarvis.
The Raven track, Fight. I love this fucking song. So, again, we'll probably do many episodes about this, but Raven took us on our very first national tour. So, on that tour, it was called the Extermination America Tour in 2014, in the fall of 2014. Their record had not come out yet, which their comeback record was called Extermination. But they were playing songs from the record on that tour. This, however, was not one of them. I never heard this song until the following year when the Extermination album came out. And when I heard it, man, I just thought it was so great. And I was like, why didn't you guys ever play this song live? There's just a lot of really cool elements in this song, and it gets into a really epic part in the middle.
It's not the money, it's not the power, anticipation of the final hour. It's being one with the game.
I'm glad that Jarvis mentioned that part in the middle, that epic part. I love that part. It's probably my favorite part of the song, and it does truly feel epic.
I don't know. It's just, it still boggles my mind that I've never seen them play this song live when we've done over 60 shows with this band across the world. Not just on that tour. We've been in many other countries with these guys playing together. But we got to enshrine it in heavy metal history on Heavy Metal Mixtape. This was another one that, I didn't even contact the guys in Raven. SPV had also put this record out. So with Ollie Hahn, it was a full all-in deal with this track, the Riot track, and the Hyrax track that we'll be talking about coming up here. But that's how I got the song on here, and it's amazing.
So this is a pretty huge track to get for the compilation, Fight by Raven. And Raven did actually play the song live, but it was after the Night Demon Raven tour.
So a lot of fun to put together, a lot of fun. We've actually played it live, I think, played it on a tour in 2016 in quite a few of the shows then. I don't think we've done it since, but it's a cool song. So check it out and enjoy. Thank you.
So that is track number 5 on the Heavy Metal Mixtape. Hey guys, Nesbitt here. If you'd like to support Night Demon and this podcast, the best way to do it is to become a Night Demon subscriber. Not only will you be doing your part to support a true heavy metal band out there really living it, you'll also gain access to a ton of extras. Bonus audio content, a subscriber-only merch store with rare items from the band's archives. You can stream never-before-heard demos and unearth live concerts from the live vaults. Communicate with the other Night Demon diehards on an exclusive subscriber forum, and gain early access to all press releases, album pre-orders, new merchandise, and a ton more. And another thing that I think is pretty cool is Night Demon will be donating 10% of every subscription fee to the Metal Cares Foundation, which is a charitable fund the band started in 2014 to aid those in our metal community. So head over to nightdemon.net/subscriber and join us as we make heavy metal history together as one. And on a side note, I'll personally think you're a grade A badass. So the next track on the Heavy Metal Mixtape compilation is by a band called Spellcaster, and the song is Ghost of My Memory. So Spellcaster, they're from Portland, Oregon. They were formed in 2009, and this is from their self-titled 2014 album. So Ghost of My Memory. So I had never heard of Spellcaster until this compilation, and I checked out the album that this song is from, and it's pretty great. There's some other really great songs on there, Haunted, Runaway, As Darkness Falls. It's a solid album. And I looked into them a little more. They have officially broken up as of April 2017. According to their website, they have a new project on the go called Silver Talon. But you can still get this album on Bandcamp. It's on spellcasterpdx.bandcamp.com if you want to download the digital album. They have another album on Spotify from 2016. It didn't really grab me the way the self-titled one did, but again, this compilation was an entry point to this band that I wouldn't otherwise know. So here's Bryce Van Hoosen, guitar player for Silver Talon and Spellcaster.
What's up? This is Bryce Van Hoosen from Silver Talon. I play guitar in Silver Talon, and I used to play guitar in a band called Spellcaster that had a song called Ghost of My Memory on the Heavy Metal Mixtape. So what are my thoughts on heavy metal compilations? I think they're great. That's the short answer. The long answer is, of course, heavy metal mixtapes and compilations have been pretty tantamount in the history of heavy metal. I mean, we can think back to, say, like Metallica on the Metal Massacre mixtapes back in the 80s. Obviously, those were of huge historical significance. And beside that, I mean, I think that a heavy metal compilation is one of the better ways to probably find new bands and find new stuff that is going to satisfy whatever cravings you're feeling for your ear holes, if you will. So I think that compilations are definitely important. And I mean, we see that the idea of the compilation is almost even more important these days than albums, I might even say. I mean, if we think about, say, a Spotify playlist these days, it's kind of like a compilation. And if you can get that compilation on a physical format and add that to your collection, that's even better, if you ask me. So Spellcaster contributed a song called Ghost of My Memory, which is from our second full length that was released in 2014. So this was the second song that we had all written together, basically from that entire album cycle. And it started off with a different name. It was called Silent Storms or Silent Storm or something like that before we actually settled on the Ghost of My Memory name for the song. We didn't feel like Silent Storm was descriptive enough and that it actually made a whole lot of sense in regards to the song. So Gabe went back to the drawing board and kind of rewrote the entire chorus. But we had done a full tour with it as Silent Storm, so there's probably some footage out there on YouTube of us playing the original version of the song. But once we had actually finished this song, Ghost of My Memory, it became really kind of a fan favorite. I think that that was one of the more memorable songs that we released from the 2014 self-titled Spellcaster album. And it's one that we played, I think, in damn near every show that we did after it was actually recorded and released.
We're Spellcasters from Portland, Oregon. This song is called Ghost of My Memory.
I think the final running time is somewhere around 3 minutes or under 3 minutes even, so it was really easy to kind of fit into the set list in between some of the longer, more meandering pieces that we did. When we recorded this song, it was kind of interesting because we tracked everything with Joel Grind from Toxic Holocaust fame, but he didn't actually get to do the final mix. We ended up taking so long during the tracking process that we basically butted up against when Toxic Holocaust had to go on tour, and so we ended up having to mix it with a completely different engineer in a completely different program than what it was tracked in. So I think that maybe some of the original vision of what we had anticipated for the actual final product, final sound product, I guess, got a little bit lost, so it ended up turning out maybe a little more lo-fi and organic, I think, than what we had initially envisioned.
Yeah, Ghost of My Memory, great song. As far as the compilation goes, you have some pretty perfect sequencing going on. You're 6 songs in, and it's kind of this roller coaster ride of new wave of British heavy metal inspired tracks, you know, classic bands, new bands, thrashy raw metal tracks, old school vibes, power metal vibes. And then you hit this track, and it's kind of like another different side of, I guess, old school metal. So it's really mixing it up, which is pretty cool.
Spellcaster, Ghost of My Memory. This song is really cool. I mean, you know, I'll just say this about this band. They were one of our closest friends as far as other bands that we palled around with back then. And they had kind of started out as more of like a straight thrash band on their first record. And it was, I mean, that record's amazing. But they had some personnel problems, so I believe the singer was out, and I don't think Colin was drumming on that record, if I'm not mistaken. But they had some personnel changes, and this was the lineup that we ended up coming to know. And this song came out on, I believe it was their self-titled record, the record that they put out themselves. It's a great track. The intro kind of reminds me of Suicidal Tendencies' You Can't Bring Me Down. In a way, I don't know why. I think there's just one part of it, like maybe the ring out before it kicks into the song. But, yeah, I mean, this song just brings back really fond memories for me personally, because we were just starting out. We were so hungry as a band. We spent a lot of time up in the Pacific Northwest sleeping on the floor and the couches of these guys and just hanging out in the park, drinking beers, going to the Lovecraft bar. And just, it was just a really good vibe. And it was a good sign of things to come. Although Spellcaster ended up breaking up as a band, those guys branched off to form other bands like Unto Others and Silver Talon, and they've had their own success, and both of those bands are climbing extremely fast, and it's really fun to see each other do so well. And I know we're going to meet up again and end up doing a lot more gigs together.
One last thing I want to mention about the song before we move on is the solo. Since we talked to Bryce, I need to highlight the solo in the song. So on guitar for Spellcaster on guitar for Spellcaster were Bryce Van Hoosen and Corey Boyd. So just enjoy this face-melting solo.
There you have it, Spellcaster's Ghost of My Memory. It's a great song. I think the melodies are really there. The intensity is there. It's really kind of almost like the Chainsaw Champion of the latter Spellcaster stuff from the second and third album, at least. It's just one of those really energetic tunes that always got the crowd riled up and ready to go. So, yeah, one of my favorites that we did.
So that's it for this episode of the podcast and this edition of the Heavy Metal Mixtape. So you can listen to the entire tracks from the mixtape in the subscriber section on nightdemon.net. There's more information there about some of the compilations that the bands in this episode mentioned. There's also a very limited number of these mixtapes available in the subscribers only store. There were 666 copies of this mixtape made originally. And these are a few of them that remain. So they were set aside in the Night Demon archives, and now they are available. And once they're gone, they're gone. There's none on eBay, there's none on Discogs, I checked. So if you want one of these, this could be your only chance. Anyway, this was another batch of killer tunes. I'm really having a good time going through this Heavy Metal Mixtape. I've listened to this tape that many times in my shed that I know it inside and out. But it's kind of cool to learn a bit more about some of the bands in here and hear from members in the band. So I hope you guys are enjoying it. Until next time, this is Nesbitt signing off.
Now the job is done. Wipe off the blade. Stop and take a look at the mess you made. Wipe your face. Clean your boots. Look into the mirror.
Thanks for listening to the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast. Head over to nightdemon.net, click on the subscriber tab, and sign up to access exclusive weekly bonus content. If you would like to donate to support the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast, you can do so through PayPal at paypal.me/nightdemonmetal. Additionally, if you have not already done so, please subscribe, like, rate, and review the show on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts.
All hail, Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast listeners. This is Dusty Squires chiming in to tell you about my brand new signature sticks from the London Drumstick Company. I've dreamt of having my very own drumsticks ever since I was a wee lad, and LDC made that a possibility for me. Founded in 2016 in London, England, the birthplace of heavy metal, the London Drumstick Company has trailblazed a path through the music industry and taken the drummer world by storm. When I met them for the first time, they knew their product was going to withstand the beatings of a Night Demon show. They took the time to work with me on getting everything just right. The balance and weight of my sticks are the same no matter what, and the durability is bar none the best I've ever had. I know my sticks will last through the set night after night. I'm truly honored to work with a company that caters to their players the way LDC does. Their innovation and attention to detail is what separates them from the rest of the stick makers out there. Their custom stick sleeves are unbelievable and really make the entire presentation complete. Wait until you see the design they came up with for me. It blew my mind and was a surprise to say the least. They have all kinds of amazing swag, including hoodies, t-shirts, drummer shorts, drum keys, stick bags, towels, face masks, practice pads, and much, much more. Even if you're not a drummer, you can be a part of Demon history and order my brand new signature sticks direct from their website. How cool is that? And to top it off, the London Drumstick Company are giving an exclusive offer to the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast listeners. Go to londondrumsticks.co.uk and receive a 15% store-wide discount using promo code DEMONSTICKS. All capital letters, no spaces, Demon Sticks. DEMONSTICKS. I can't thank everyone there enough for the opportunity to be a part of their family and for them trusting me with their amazing products. See you metal maniacs on the road very soon. And yes, the wood chips will be flying.
Greetings, boils and ghouls. This is your comrade, the Crypt Keeper here, reporting dead from the sanctuary of the strange. Tonight's macabre myth is a fright-filled feature, one overflowing with monsters, madness, and magic.
Visit our website at monstersmadnessandmagic.com to stay up to date on all the dark dealings within the sanctuary of the strange. Enjoy the show.
Hey Metalheads, I'm Mark and I host the Metal Forge. Let me tell you about the show. The Metal Forge features the best underground metal from all over the world. We spend every week with a different artist with interviews, in-depth conversations, and most of all, the music. We also feature audience interactivity where you can submit your questions to the upcoming guests. New episodes are out every Friday at noon Eastern Time at metalforgeradio.com or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Want to know what's going on in the world of music? Then tune in to the Nothing Shocking Podcast, a non-genre based, all ages friendly rock and roll program. Join us weekly for interviews with all your favorite rock stars from the mainstream to the underground. You can find us at nothingshocking.libsyn.com or anywhere you download podcasts.
Okay, metalheads, you've been complaining that there has not been a channel that plays all of the heavy metal videos from past, present, and future for years and years at this point. Well, that time is over. Heavy Metal Television is back. HeavyMetalTelevision.net is the website. Go there. You can see videos playing 24/7, 365, all the time, all the best from the old school, the new school, and everything in between. Check it out, HeavyMetalTelevision.net. It is where the metal is.